Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the next of my, I guess you could say, end of season ramble series. I mean, you can call it what you like, but this time around it's the turn of Haas. I think it's fair to say that it's been a very disappointing season for the team. I mean, just a couple of years ago, Haas finished 5th in the Constructors. And although the team did take a big step back last year, finishing 9th, they did still score 28 points. But in 2020, they've picked up just 3, representing another massive step backwards. Not good at all. And I think we're looking at a team in decline. In fact, I'd argue they ended the season with the slowest car on the grid, certainly in terms of raw pace. That's just how I see it. And maybe some of you might want to argue that they were on a par with Williams, but I'm not so sure. One of the big problems they've had this year is an issue with the car's rear suspension overheating, which was causing the ride height to alter, and that meant the handling became inconsistent. Couple that with the lack of power coming from the Ferrari power unit and you can start to understand why the car seemed so off the pace at times. There is obviously a lot of work to do, but they've struggled to get on top of the problems despite having the experienced feedback of Magnussen and Grosjean, so I'm actually really worried that with them having 2 rookies in the car next year, it might be tough to solve everything and get that car up to speed for 2021. So perhaps full focus should be on the new 2022 car in the hope they can make a leap up the order, but this season has once again been one to forget for Haas. And you know, because the car has been so bad, it's hard to really criticise the drivers too much. Of course, they play their part, but if the car isn't delivering, the drivers will struggle to do so as well, and that's similar to what I said last year. Romain Grosjean has been okay in terms of performance, and it must be said it's hard to separate him from his teammate. They are pretty much even Stevens in terms of qualifying averages, and there is barely anything between them when it comes to the overall quali and race battles. However, Magnussen does have the upper hand in terms of the qualifying gap being just over 0.3 quicker on average. Otherwise, very evenly matched, which says to me both of them are pretty much doing all they can with that car for the most part. And it may not sound like much, but at least they've got some points on the board with Grosjean grabbing 2. Like I say though, I think he's been okay this year. Really hard to say much else. What I do have to say though is that although I am a little bit sad to see him walk away from F1 at the end of the year, I'm also really pleased he is able to walk away. His crash in Bahrain was absolutely horrific. And you know what? I'm still amazed when I see the pictures and the footage that he was able to survive that. It just goes to show how far safety has come in the sport over the years. Absolutely incredible. And once again, we've got to give huge credit and huge praise to the marshals and the fire marshals and the FIA for everything they've done and everything they did that weekend. Sadly though, that was it for him in Formula One as he sat out the final 2 races of the year so he could continue his recovery. And whilst I think we can all agree it would have been nice to see him race in Abu Dhabi just one last time, it was the right thing to do, all things considered. Look, I know I give Dan a lot of grief about being a Grosjean fan, but that is all banter. He's a really nice guy, not Dan, Grosjean. And he is actually a very quick driver. He showed that when he was racing for Lotus and with the fact he's had 10 podiums in his career. But I've got to admit on Grosjean, I've always felt he was one of those drivers that was never really able to show us his full potential. There was a point during his Lotus days where people believed he had the potential and speed to race for a top team, possibly pick up wins and maybe even fight for a title. Now that might sound mad if you're relatively new to F1, but he really did used to be very highly rated. As I say though, for the 3rd time, it's been an okay season for Grosjean, and I think he's had a solid career over the years, so good luck to him with whatever he's got planned for the future. Honestly, thank you so much for the memories, Romain, and once again, get well soon. Kevin Magnussen has also, I think anyway, done about all he could with that car and has picked up a solitary point this year. Gotta be said though, quite a drop from the 20 he grabbed last season and the 56 he picked up in 2018. It's been a frustrating year for both drivers. I mean, just pushing aside the points finishes for a moment, K-Mag's best result was 12th, and that's the same for Rogro, again if you ignore his points. So to be honest, I think everything I said about Grosjean's 2020 performances kind of transfer over to Magnussen, so there's not really any point repeating that. Although I'd perhaps argue, despite the fact he's a point worse off, and for what it's worth, Magnussen was just about the better of the two, but it's certainly not the way he wanted to end his F1 career. And you know, he's a driver I will miss as well. Okay, he's frustrated the life out of me at times, but he's a very quick guy, and I do believe he still has something to offer Formula One. As I've always said about Magnussen, if you give him a car capable of competing for top-end points, he will win you top-end points. He's also a bit of a dying breed, isn't he, when it comes to drivers? He's quick, he's aggressive but fair, sometimes, and doesn't take BS from anyone. And don't forget, he was the most recent driver to finish on the podium in his debut F1 race. Overall, I think he's had a good career, but I do feel like it could have been so much more. And perhaps like Grosjean, he's another driver who was never really able to fulfill his potential. Just a thought, but anyway, good luck to him in IMSA next year, and I'm really pleased to see he's been able to get a seat somewhere and keep racing in 2021. It's just a shame that the two drivers didn't get a more competitive car this year, just to remind everyone what they can do. Obviously, there was a third driver for Haas this year, and that was Pietro Fittipaldi. A bit like I said for Jack Aitken in a Williams video, with so little time to prepare, really the target for him was just to keep it clean and finish both races, which he did. I think he did a very good job and can be proud of his performances. Overall though, not much else to say on Haas, just a really disappointing year, and again, I don't think we can be too hard on the drivers. The car was poor, the power unit was terrible, quite frankly, and they did pretty much all they could, all things considered. I just really hope the team can get it turned around next year, or as is more likely, focus on 2022 and try to make some moves up the grid. That is it for this one though. You can let me know your thoughts on how you think Haas got on this year down in the comments section, but also, once again out of 10, how would you rate Haas's 2020 season? Now, I will be back soon with a good old waffle on Alfa Romeo's season, but in the meantime, don't forget that you can of course follow me over on social media, and all of the links you need for that are in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean, this has been the F1 Word, and until next time, goodbye.